Very good. Well, hello, everybody. Good afternoon from South Africa. If you're joining us from elsewhere, my name is Ben Hoseas. Today I'm borrowing a computer, so don't mind my display name. But a pleasure to be joined by Andrew Paris, who's a friend and a mentor. We've had probably 10 years or so, Andrew. We've been working together, coordinating, if not more. So a pleasure to have you with us today and to share a bit about your experience and your insight from your different journeys around the world. And so the topic of today's discussion is around the Lean Six Sigma Belt program. So we've been getting a lot of questions about this, so we figured might as well turn it into a brief webinar in order to answer the question of why should you attend, what are they, how will they support you on your journey, and that's our goal for today. So we'll aim to present for about 25, 30 minutes, and then we'll open up the floor for any questions and answer towards the end of the discussion. So briefly about us, the Lean Institute Africa, we have the privilege to be part of the Lean Global Network. So we're one of 30 plus chapters around the globe, the only current chapter on the African continent. We're a member of the UCT Graduate School of Business as a research unit, and we work with different industries, different sectors, but our main goal is working across systems. So where we see complex environments, where we see disruption, where we need to improve efficiency, improve flow, that's our goal. So Andrew, if you can help me with muting anybody there, appreciate that. And briefly about our community, we work across different initiatives and programs, client engagements, leadership and strategy, the belt training, which obviously we're here today to learn about, TWY, very near and dear to our hearts, and then likewise more effort in the community and international benchmarking abroad. So let's talk about where we are currently, and we'd like to talk current state. So thinking about the reality within some of our organizations. We deal with firefighting, we deal with recurring problems, standards that we have, but perhaps collecting dust somewhere that we're not following, improvement efforts that aren't sustaining, leadership perhaps not being as involved as they would like to be or as we need them to be. And so we're looking at this right-hand column of what's needed. And so we're thinking about problem solving. How do we build in some structure with that? How do we have clear delineation and ownership of action items? When we're building standards, how do we have ownership that's collaborative and really personal for the team members, the people doing the work, a shared best way of doing that work? Process for efficient project implementation. So we think about improvement projects, we think about capital projects, any other type of work. A mindset and a capability shift at the front line. So building that capability, building those behaviors that we'd like to see, and then having that leadership and commitment and support. And so that seems like a lot to achieve with just these belt programs, but that is the objective of that. And through these belt programs, I think you do learn a structured way of solving problems, identifying and solving problems. We do learn a structured way of going through a project methodology in order to do that. And then also we get leadership support and buy-in. So that's part of the project charter experience. Part of what you'll be expected to do is achieve executive sign-off during these projects likewise, which brings in your leadership support inherently. So what you'll learn through the belt programs is that we'll identify and solve real business problems. These are not done in a classroom. This is not meant to be theoretical. We are picking and choosing real-time problems that are causing us pain when we think about the process flow. We're looking at data analysis. So Six Sigma is quite good with this, Lean likewise to some extent, but Six Sigma in particular gets into the analytical and statistical rigor. So you learn all these various tools and frameworks of how to go about slicing and dicing your data in a more comprehensive manner. We'll look at the process flow. So we'll look at the value stream and the material and information and how those interact. And again, talking about reducing waste, eliminating pain points. That's where we're looking at all the headaches that come up during our day-to-day. So during these programs, we'll have that up on the wall in real time. We'll be thinking about the process as we feel it and experience it today. And then that's what we'll be working to solve and improve. You'll likewise be looking at the structured project framework. We've talked about that. So the DMAIC framework, define, measure, analyze, improve, and control. That's part and parcel to Six Sigma. And likewise, we'll be learning PDCA. So that's Plan, Do, Check, Act. That's more within the Lean lexicon. So we'll be also learning that likewise in order to go through that structured project flow. And then talking about culture, talking about people. That's what you'll be learning as a practitioner and how to champion this within your organization. But we also want you to be thinking as you move up the chain of these belts and the progression that you're expected to be doing more and more of teaching, learning on one hand, teaching on the other, in order to develop this type of culture across your organization, identifying and solving problems. So again, the how you'll do it DMAIC will spend the whole week talking about this framework, and then you'll be expected to do a project. Likewise, using this framework, you'll learn structured problem solving, the traditional 8-step model that was born originally out of Toyota, but now is popularized around the world. So Plan, Do, Check, Act is brought down to those 8 steps. And then likewise, we'll give you a variety of case studies and practical examples. I give those during the yellow belt and green belt. Andrew will be speaking about that for the black belt likewise, and very excited to share some of that experience with you. So when we think about Lean Six Sigma together, Lean traditionally we talk about efficiency, we talk about eliminating waste, improving flow, we talk about value for the customer, and looking at some of these guiding principles, the leadership philosophy, the operating system, the management system. And so we like to think of this as, again, PDCA of how we do Lean. Six Sigma, on the other hand, we're looking at the voice of the customer, very similar for value to the customer. This is where it becomes that powerful combination, reducing variation, looking at improving quality, using that data and fact-based decision making. And then again, we're getting to a next level of depth when it comes to analysis and statistics. So that's what makes this quite powerful in that regard. And with the belt certification pathway, we do realize this is a polarizing topic sometimes within the Lean community because belts were not originally part of Lean as a movement. But from what I've experienced and what I know my colleagues with the Institute and Andrew has experienced, is that these belts give a very nice progression and a very clear delineation for have you learned, have you been certified, are you going up the chain of progression to understand that you are on that pathway and that we can validate that learning that's taking place, that you're completing these projects. So there is real importance that we've seen of being able to go through these just beyond just being a nice stamp on your resume or CV. So we do value these belt programs highly and are excited to have you with us today to learn more about that. So the last couple of years, we've been training these belt programs quite extensively. So we've had over 300 people that we've trained at the yellow and green level, along with a couple of black belts that we've been doing. And each of these projects that we're running as part of the belt programs deliver measurable improvement. So that's what we need to see. We're building that capability. We're looking at the cultural piece, but we need to be solving real business problems. And that at the end of the day is how we know it's working. So we're learning the theory, but we need to be out practicing likewise. So we've run these now Cape Town, Durban, Johannesburg, Mauritius. We're looking to run one in Nairobi, Kenya later this year, and really been pleased and excited by how quickly they're expanding. And we're doing this both for internal companies and organizations, and likewise running open courses that we run a couple times a year. So to give you a sample of some of these projects, you see we work across the variety of industries, and that's what's nice again with these belt programs is that it's industry agnostic. So we have insurance, customer service, clothing and retail, consumer goods, supply chain, manufacturing. And these projects, again, they're current real-time pain points that we're having, and they're coming from a very clear leadership mandate of what do we need to be working on, what do we need to be focusing on. As you come into the training room for the week or the 6 days of the belt program, you're expected to have a project scope ready and prepared in order to come into the room primed, and you'll be working on these in real time during that week. And then you can see some of the results. It's looking at rand or dollar savings. We're looking at quality improvement. We're looking at efficiency improvement. Safety and people likewise come into play, implementing various business processes. So it's been very fun to be a coach from my standpoint and looking across the types of projects that our practitioners are now completing. And I know Andrew will now speak to more of his experience likewise across some of the organizations that he's worked on behalf of. So what do we need in order to achieve the level of impact we're going after? With these belt programs, we need to know what does successful transformation involve, and we'll speak about that as part of how these belt programs fit into it. How do we apply these tools in practice? And then how do we move from theory to results? So that's just building a bridge now to what my colleague Andrew will cover in his portion. So I'll give it a moment. We're just going to do a quick changeover. Andrew, if you'd be willing to share your screen there, please.
Yep. Go.
Very good.
All right. So want to briefly introduce myself, who I am, the things that I've been doing, and I will begin with a little global tour. So I was born actually in Hollywood many 60 years ago in the Los Angeles area. I attended UC Berkeley as an undergraduate in manufacturing engineering. I worked for 3 years in Silicon Valley for a company called 3Com. Then I went to graduate school at MIT, where I was part of the Lean Aircraft Initiative, looking at the question, does Lean apply outside of the automobile industry and in the aircraft? In fact, there's a U.S. military aircraft industry that and the U.S. Air Force that were taking on this research project collectively. The answer came back yes. And since then, I have been taking Lean to different sectors, different parts of the globe. After a year in seminary and after my PhD at MIT and a year in seminary, I joined Lockheed Martin in Denver, Colorado, working mostly on the Atlas program, part of the Lockheed Martin Operational Excellence program, where I got my Six Sigma Black Belt and my Lean Six Sigma Master Black Belt training and eventual certification. And after 11 years in aerospace, I decided to join the NGO sector. So I joined World Vision, moved back to Los Angeles, also lived 3 years in Nairobi, Kenya, and worked trained, coached in a number of, and visited a number of countries. You can see the orange dots there populating are places where I visited or trained and coached. And I, in fact, did get to know the folks down at the Lean Institute Africa, Norman Fall, and others back during the time during the time that I was at World Vision. Then, after 9 years with World Vision, I joined MedAir, a Swiss international humanitarian NGO based in Switzerland, which is where I now live, and visited a few more African countries in the Middle East as well. And in the last few years, I've also taken on consulting, and now I'm 100% a Lean Six Sigma consultant. My business is called Go Lean and Grow. I've worked with organizations such as the ITC, the Comprehensive Nuclear Test Ban Treaty Organization, the ICRC, both in Geneva and in Nairobi, and of course now with the Lean Institute Africa. I'm looking forward to this training that we're going to do together. In fact, Ben helped me with one of the trainings that I did in MedAir a couple years back, and now we're looking forward to doing this training together in Cape Town in July. A little bit about my experience in World Vision East Africa. It was a time of 3 years where we had very strong leadership support, and that is always one of the things that is essential to making continuous improvement successful. I trained about 450 staff and leaders in my one-day Process Excellence Energizer training, trained another 56 as Lean Six Sigma green belts, and organized training for 11 black belts, Lean Six Sigma black belts, who then became the process improvement leads in each of their country offices. And collectively, they did many more improvements, but they documented 33 small, large process improvement projects and 32 smaller make it better improvements. And during the time, the people that I trained working in the supply chain realm reduced an annual cost of over $1.5 million. And they also, where we targeted and measured it, reduced span time, this is the time from beginning to end of a process, by 59%, also defects by 72%, where we targeted and measured it. And we also did things like reduce underspending, which in the NGO sector, underspending is generally an indication that you didn't have your act together. You weren't able to spend the money according to the plan that you made because of poor process performance. So in that case, reducing underspending is a good thing. We began to transform the culture to develop a stronger culture of continuous improvement. We improved our reputation, and even, as we'll see on the next slide, we're able to win a grant that World Vision was able to win a grant that they hadn't won in the past because of the improvements that had been made. And here are the team of black belts And a number of these folks I'm still very much in touch with, including Samuel Kamau in Nairobi and Abebe Nigatu in Addis Ababa in Ethiopia. And in Ethiopia, speaking of which, we reduced the time to hire employees from 130 to 41 days. In Uganda, with Griven here, we reduced the percent of rejected payment requests from 40 down to 4%. In Burundi, where Doreen is the lead, we were able to speed up the time it takes to construct new classrooms so that they could actually be finished on time, which is in time for school to begin. In Uganda also, typically there was an end of the year, end of the fiscal year spending push to spend the money that hadn't been spent but was planned to have been spent during the fiscal year. And Griven received an email from one of his team members thanking him that this team member could actually take vacation at the end of the fiscal year, because in years past he was not able to do that, but now he was able to join his family on vacation. Samuel Kamau, the lead for World Vision Kenya, reduced another $500,000 one-time costs. And as I mentioned, we won a World Food Program grant worth of 424,000 US dollars by being more competitive. And to sum up, the attitude of and learning and experience of this team of folks is it works. You learn the materials, you apply them, and you really do get some amazing results. As I mentioned, the last 8.5 years I was working with MEDAIR. I wanted to share with you briefly an experience from MEDAIR Somalia. This is of all the countries that MEDAIR works, the one that really has taken on lean and continuous improvement the most significantly, and wanted to share with you some of the things that were done in that country and some of the impacts that have been achieved in the country as well. So the first thing, the senior leaders got trained. They were engaged in lean and continuous improvement. They've been and continue to be very supportive. It's part of their strategy. And they also assigned, and I have been organizing coaching for my lean champion, Abdunor. And he has, in fact, put that into his job description and his performance agreement. So this is a core part of what he does, although he has many other roles as well, but he added this in to be a lean champion for the MEDAIR Somali program. He and I have been training both employees and our partners, which you could consider our suppliers, in the work in Somalia. The Abdunor has been facilitating, he's been coaching, he's been facilitating process mapping and improvement. He's been coaching team members. He's been promoting continuous improvement. They've been making many small, medium, and large improvements. All three sizes are really quite necessary. Not only making them, but also documenting some of them, then sharing those. And in the documentation, very importantly, in fact, also is measuring them to have a good idea of how much things have actually improved. And then sharing those improvements within the country, but also within the larger MEDAIR and organization. As I mentioned, lean is something that's a core element of their strategy. They've also flowed that down to daily management through stand-up meetings in the different groups that are working closely together. He's also established a community of practice where people who are particularly interested or involved in continuous improvement can meet together, discuss, share insights, ask for help, and encourage one another. And the leaders, managers have been trained and encouraged to go to the Gemba, to go to the workplace, to see what's happening, to provide coaching, to get a better feel for how things are happening, and to be able to address problems that arise with greater insight, understanding, and stronger relationships. And here are a couple examples of process improvement, of the many process improvement projects in supply chain from dock to distribution. They were able to reduce lead time by 50%. In fleet management, they are able to make the fleet of vehicles and the use of vehicles for transportation safer and reducing costs. They have been able to reduce payment lead time by 50%. And when there is a new crisis, a new emergency, a new outbreak of something, or a movement of people that needs to be responded to, there's a consortium of NGOs, Midair being one of them, World Vision Industry another one, the consortium that's come together of these different NGOs to figure out how to respond and to approve the release of money for these responses when there's a new crisis. And in fact, they've been able to reduce the approval time for new alerts by about 90% and speed up other elements of responding to new crisis, which is really important, obviously, for the people who are in crisis and who need to be served. So these are a couple examples. There's an article that Abdunor and I wrote. It's Planet Lean, the Lean Journey in the World's Most Challenging Context, and you can read that on the Planet Lean website, which is part of the Lean Global Network that Ben was mentioning earlier. So to come back to the questions that Ben raised for a Lean Six Sigma Black Belt, if you really want to change your organization, bring about transformation, there are a few questions that the training will address. And the first, I've broken the training into 3 basic questions. We'll take a look at each of these in a moment. And the first one is, how do we integrate Lean and Six Sigma so we've got these 2 methodologies, Lean focusing on reducing waste and Six Sigma focusing on reducing variation. How do we integrate these into a single management system for continuous improvement that transforms our organization? Second question that people will be that I think will be important to answer is, how do we plan, how do we manage, and how do we increase the flow? You have, as a Lean Six Sigma Green Belt, you already have a number of tools. You've heard of Kanban. You know the PDCA cycle. You have a number of standard work, organize the area, 5S, 6S type of things. But how do you take these tools and add to them some new concepts to take the next level of really developing flow in your organization? Similarly, on the Six Sigma side of things, you've have some basic understanding of variation and how things change from one to the next, but how do we really understand, measure, analyze, and reduce the variation that we find in our organization, in our processes? And these are the 3 basic structural elements of the Lean Six Sigma Black Belt training that we'll address. And just to go in a little bit into the content, we'll begin with what is a little bit more about what's a Lean Six Sigma Black Belt. Why should we have one as an organization, or why should I, as an individual, become a Lean Six Sigma Black Belt? We'll take a very quick run through and review of the Lean Six Sigma concepts and tools that you've learned so far, and then we'll look at how to integrate these and a few more things into a quality management system through something that I call a vision of process excellence, the processes being effective, efficient, appropriate, empowering, and continuously improving. Then also looking at what I call 7 habits of process improvement. These are: organize the area, make work visual, standardize the work, which are focused on stabilizing our processes, then eliminate waste, prevent mistakes, and make the work flow, which are focused on optimizing our processes. And then problem solving is the 7th habit of process improvement, which we're really doing through all of the different 6 habits. These are the kind of the basic foundation that we want everyone in the organization to be able to do, because we want to train and engage everyone in continuous improvement. We want to build everyone's capacity to be a process engineer and to make the work better. We'll talk about larger projects, DMAIC projects, and how to lead those through the different phases and elements in a bit more detail than you've learned so far. We'll talk about strategy, whether you call it policy deployment, strategy deployment, or Hoshin Conry. We'll get into that and how that flows down into daily tiered management systems. We'll talk about leadership standard work, about coaching people to not just give them the answer, tell them what to do, but really building up their capacity. We'll get into how we get leadership, how leadership engages the organization, gets people engaged, and also how to develop a sustainable system for sustaining and expanding the lean transformation. And lastly, we'll touch briefly on Lean Six Sigma and AI, how we can use AI, what to do, what not to do, as part of improving your organizational performance. The second major topic on lean that we will focus on, how do we plan, manage, and increase flow? We'll be looking at how do we design flow under variability? How do we increase throughput, and how do we trade that off with utilization to balance speed and cost? How do we plan for demand and capacity? And how do we really make work flow smoothly through our processes using Kanban and other methods? We'll talk about constraints and how to deal with constraints in our systems using the theory of constraints. And then single minute exchange of die. How do we, as a concept, as a principle, but how do we reduce change over time so that we can reduce batch sizes so that material and information flow more smoothly through our organization? And when we're dealing with equipment, how do we make sure that they're performing optimally, which is going to be essential. As we increase utilization, we need to make sure that our equipment are working as much as possible. So these are the topics that are to help us delve in deeper into the lean side of things and flow and pull, which are core elements of lean. And on the Six Sigma side of things, we're going to be focusing on minimizing variation, on understanding, measuring, analyzing, and reducing variation. We'll get into things like statistical distributions, understanding how things vary from one item to the next, one time to the next, what are ways in which things vary according to these statistical distributions. We'll delve a little bit more into process capabilities, CP and CPK, helping us understand how good really are we at meeting our quality requirements. Then we'll take a look at MSA, Measurement Systems Analysis, which assesses our measurement system. Are the methods and tools that we use for measuring, and the people for that matter also, are they good enough to really understand how the quality of the items that we're producing? And this applies not just to physical items, but also to documents, reports, deliverables, even in services. We'll get into hypothesis testing, different tests about how we understand if things changed or not. How do we know that there's a problem going on, or the variation that we're seeing is just a result of normal variation? So we'll get into hypothesis testing, regression analysis, which will help us understand, focusing on one-to-one correlations. What's the relationship between these two factors, or between this factor and this output? We'll talk briefly about multivariable relationships as well, getting into then design of experiments, or DOE, which is an optimal way of understanding what are the key factors that affect an output, and what's the relationship between these factors and the quality aspects of the output that we care about. And we'll spend some time on advanced control charts, not simply samples, but individuals and things that vary not according to normal distribution, to help us understand how we can best detect problems. Quickly, we'll delve into failure modes and effects analysis. How do we prioritize? How do we analyze and resolve risk, which is it's a great methodology for achieving that. And we'll take a brief look at statistical tools, I believe we will use Excel. We might also take a look at, we'll take a look at least at Sigma Excel, something called Sven.ai, and maybe even take a look at how we might use AI in understanding statistics and and helping us with understanding and analyzing the variation that we find in our processes. So to come back to the questions that Ben raised, how will this Lean Six Sigma Black Belt training help you achieve your impact? On the one hand, you will learn what successful transformation involves. As you can see, we'll talk about Lean Six Sigma, how they integrate together into a system that you can use to transform the organization. We'll be looking specifically at Lean and specifically at Six Sigma tools in practice, how to apply them and how to move just from the theory of how things should work to getting results through practical application and implementation. We'll have some exercises, we'll have a case study, and these will help us move again from theory to actual results. So as you transition or add to your green belt, as you move into black belt, I believe that these questions that you have will be answered in the best way possible, and you will be able to achieve the impact that you desire in your organization. I want to take just a moment to look at the different belt levels that are available in the Lean Six Sigma set of domain of expertise. And typically things begin with a yellow, a white, or even orange belt, where one is people who get this training, they're participating in everything, they're continuously improving. They can participate in all improvement projects. At this point, they're receiving training, they're applying the basic 7 habits, they're receiving coaching, they're sharing their impact, they're learning along the way. They're participants in the Lean Six Sigma Transformation Initiative, and they're in terms of responsibility, seniority, and focus, they're team members, and their focus is tactical, but they are part of a very important part of developing a continuous improvement culture. As one moves to the next level in green belt, one is facilitating a team of small scope. One's participating in all different sizes of projects, and one's typically having one project at a time that one might be working on. A green belt can train the levels below, so they can begin training white belts. They're having a fuller application of these 7 habits of process improvement. And they will be also able to coach and develop the yellow and white belts in the organization. And they're typically will be focused on one team, and they'll be participating again in the Lean Six Sigma Transformation Initiative. And then next, or they are also leading a team, they're aligned with the strategy, and they're again an important part of the CI culture. Black belts, and this is what will be developed, the capability that we'll be developing in this upcoming training, will facilitate teams of larger scope. They may be involved in facilitating several projects at once. They are able to train green belts. They're working with the 7 habits fully and stronger, more in depth with statistics flow and leadership in the organization. They'll be coaching and developing their green belts, yellow and white belts. They're typically will be leading within a department or a site, and at that level, they're operating at management level in a strategic way, and important elements of the continuous improvement culture. Black belt, we're not going to get into this in this training, but just to give you a vision of what a black belt would do or does, they are facilitating some of the most complex projects. They'll be doing, again, several projects at once. They'll be training black belts and different levels below that. They'll be working on even more advanced statistics and lean concepts and tools. They'll be involved with strategic transformation of the organization. They'll be coaching the leaders of the organization as well as black belts and others below. They'll be leading they'll be really helping to set and lead and guide the whole organization in a transformation initiative. And they'll be responsible for maybe the entire organization or multiple sites or a region, engaging with senior leaders or be one of the senior leaders and setting strategy, not just following strategy, and an important part of the CI culture in the organization. So, wrapping up, we will, what does it look like to become a certified Lean Six Sigma Black Belt? Well, the first step will be to attend the Lean Six Sigma Black Belt training that we are offering 27th of July through the 1st of August this year. Then successfully pass an exam or assessment. This will be given on the final day of training. And then facilitate. We're not just theory, we're about hands-on. So you will be required to facilitate or lead a workplace improvement project with tangible results. That means measured results. How do you do that? By applying a variety, not just one or two, but a variety of concepts and tools that we've taught you, that you've learned in the black and green belts courses, of following the structured, define, measure, analyze, improve, control framework, and then also getting approval from an executive within your company, as well as the LIA coach. And with that, I hand it back over to Ben to wrap things up and take questions.
Yeah, thank you very much, Andrew. And hopefully the audience is gaining just a bit of your experience and the depth that we'll be able to offer during this Black Belt. So again, we're hosting this coming up from the 27th of July through the 1st of August. It'll be a 6-day event. We were going through the content, realizing we need more time. So we're having it over 6 days. There'll be full days, 8:30 to 5, 8:30 a.m. Pardon me. Excuse me, 8:30 a.m. to 5 p.m. And those will be an opportunity to have discussion, have content be shared, some of the theory. So also networking. We've got a great network of green belts that we're hoping to share across and become black belts. And then obviously we're hosting this at the Graduate School of Business in Cape Town. So look forward to seeing you there. And if you'd like to think about becoming a green belt prior to the black belt training, please do reach out to me. My email address is below. So you're welcome to request that opportunity. We do suggest, and we have it as a requirement, that you are a green belt coming into the black belt training in July. So we'd like to do that just to level set and make sure everybody's coming in on the same basis. So please do consider that. If you'd like to become a green belt prior to the black belt training, please do let me know. Otherwise, we again look forward to seeing you there, and we're happy to answer any questions. We just got one question now from Jennifer. So what are the prerequisites for attending the Lean Green Belt? So Jennifer, to be very specific, we would ask that you are either a green belt or a yellow belt or a white belt. You've had some introductory training to Lean. So that's the one expectation. The other piece is that you're able to lead one of these projects back in your workplace. So that again is the standard that we have, that you'll be attending the week-long training, but then you'll be going off and applying that project back in your home environment. So you need to have that responsibility. But other than that, we do welcome you. So if you'd like to learn more, please reach out to me. Any other questions here from the audience while we have Andrew on the line? No problem if not. What I have found learning from Andrew, so we mentioned earlier, I had the pleasure of joining Andrew and Jordan a couple of years ago for a greenbelt training. And during that, what I found quite impactful was being able to do not just the theoretical piece, but baked into every module, there was a practical application. And you see all the photos of the team members up with their flip charts, brainstorming together, working together, collaborating together. So that is part of what we'll intend to achieve. There's a good amount of content. There's an abundant amount of content in the black belt, but you will also have the opportunity to work as part of a group. And we do want that to be part of your experience likewise. Another question from Nkosi. So how do we obtain the white yellow belt? So the Lean Institute does offer the yellow belt program. We can also speak about that for your organization or during a public course. We have one coming up post the black belt. So if you would like to get that beforehand, we can definitely talk about that. And then there are also good opportunities elsewhere if you'd like to do some research to upskill yourself on a white or yellow belt level, just some introductory type training. But we do offer that yellow and that green belt as prerequisites for the black belt. Do we have any practical examples in public entities or state-owned enterprises? Good question from Funeka. So the answer is yes. We have many of those examples. So we've been doing internal training for a large financial institution across South Africa in the last year. We've also done internal training, not belts, but introductory and advanced training for Western Cape government, I can say, with the red tape reduction unit. And then also now we've just done a recent training with a large state-owned logistics and freight company. Likewise, so we have many of those examples, and we're looking at improving turnaround times, vessels, trucks, improving delivery process flow, improving service to the customer, improving quality. So we have many of those examples. If you'd like to learn more, please do reach out to me likewise. But thank you for asking. Any other questions? Andrew, any final words from your end?
Thanks, Ben. I'm looking forward to it. And as you mentioned, there's a lot of theory, and also there will be a lot of application. So we'll teach you some concepts. We'll ask you to apply them, and
Mhm.
we will also address your question, Jennifer. Will Lean Six Sigma skills remain relevant in the AI era? As I think many people are finding out from AI, it's not yet, at least, all that it's cooked up to be. And human intelligence will always be essential, will always be necessary, um, if for nothing else, to judge, to understand, to address and to understand the validity of the artificial intelligence that you might use. So it's a great tool. It can help us brainstorm. It can help us think. It can help us analyze. But if you don't know more than AI, you're in for trouble.
Mm.
And these tools and these concepts are in large part, especially the Six Sigma part, but also the lean. Lean is about analyzing and understanding our processes, how things work. And there's simply a human element. AI can't come to your factory. It can't come to your office and observe what's going on and talk with people and interview them and get a feeling for how things are going. It's just not going to be capable of doing the things that people need to do. So this is one of those things that will not be overcome by AI. We may get AI coaching on how we analyze problems. We may get AI to help guide us through, and a number of people are developing AI tools to help walk you through how you analyze a problem. Are you making sure you've got down to root cause? Are you following a structured approach? Are you not forgetting any factors? Um, so there are AI tools that will help you, but in the end, it's people who need to do this work, people who need to be creative and know when and when not to call on AI to help you with it. So yeah, couple initial thoughts there on AI, but this is definitely one area that's not going to be taken over by AI.
I agree with you, Andrew. And just to chime in on that, likewise, Jennifer, we find that with Lean Six Sigma, for one, they're based on timeless principles of improvement and all the relevant topics around mindset and culture. But again, project management and project execution, we're also speaking about those. So we can use AI to augment our ability to scope and implement projects, but you still need to have that framework that you as a practitioner are leading and facilitating. And that's what the power of DMAIC and PDCA is, that they give you that mental framework that then you can go off and use all the tools available at your disposal in order to do that work. So excited to actually have that bridge be built and have that be a more clear link. And then maybe a final question before we adjourn, any relationship or link with the programs being implemented by Productivity SA on continuous improvement? No, I think we respect the work that's being done elsewhere, but there is no formal link between our belt programs and productivity SA. So just to clarify that. I think on that note, let's go ahead and wrap up. We just hit quarter 2. So Andrew, thank you again for joining us from Switzerland, and we look forward to having you in Cape Town coming up at the end of July. It'll be a full week. I know our team's excited to join you, and we've already got good early registration. So we hope everybody does consider it. We know it's an investment of time and some finances, but we do find that there's a massive ROI that can be immediately realized. So look forward to having you join us.
And
So
look
we'll
forward to
share.
seeing you all.
Yeah,
Yep.
thank you, Andrew.
Looking forward to seeing everyone and to partnering with you, Ben, on this training.
Very good. We will share the recording link in an email in the next day or so, and likewise the slides for those that have requested it. And again, thank you for joining us. Talk to you later.
Thanks. Cheers. Bye. Bye.
Cheers. Goodbye.